Okay. Hello, G1 from Nepal. Thank you for coming. So a warm welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for attending this event. Welcome to this meet and greet with faculty, grad students, and alumni of communication at UMass Amherst. My name is Jonathan Ong. I'm Associate Professor of Global Digital Media here in the Department of Communication at UMass. I'm also Chair of PhD Admissions, and I'm joined today by my entire grad studies committee, and they'll be here to answer your questions. So our intention for today's event is to tell you all about our department's teaching and research interests, our significant investments in the PhD program, and the many achievements of our PhD students over the years, and we're very proud of them. So we'll take you through the different components of the PhD application process so that you know our expectations and we're quite aligned there. And also you get to know as well about our department culture and our different research priorities. So our format today is for the first 25-ish minutes, we'll be presenting, and we'll have half an hour for question time after that. So without further ado, I'll be turning over, at least for the first part of the presentation, I'll be introducing now Dr. Emily West, who is Associate Professor of Communication and the Director of the PhD program. Emily West and her research areas are in consumer culture, gender and the media, and media audiences. She also has a forthcoming book with MIT Press called Buy Now: How Amazon Branded Convenience and Normalized Monopoly. This is a book that documents how logics of surveillance and monopoly power affect consumers, workers, and us as citizens. It also personally makes me feel guilty about online shopping as we head into holiday season. As director of the PhD program, Emily is a key point of contact for all grad students, in addition to, of course, grad students, direct supervisors, and their committee members. So take it away, Emily.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Jonathan. I just want to echo Jonathan's welcome to all of you. We're so excited to see you, to learn about your interest in our program, and to tell you why we're excited about our program. So yeah, we can probably go on to the next slide. So next year in 2022, the Department of Communication will celebrate its 50th anniversary, which is very exciting, but actually, the roots of our department go even farther back than that, because the Department of Communication came out of a previous department in speech and rhetoric. So that probably was the emphasis in the early years of the department. In the last couple of decades, we've become known for our traditions in critical cultural studies, ethnography of communication, media effects, film studies, performance studies, I would add to that list as well. And other areas perhaps not even mentioned here, but these are the things that we've come to be known for. We're very proud of our alums. We're excited to have an alum on our presentation panel today, who've gone on to work primarily in universities and colleges, in a wide range of types of institutions, both here in the US and internationally. And some alums have gone on to become heads of department, to become deans, and we even have a past president of the International Communication Association among our alums. So communication is among the largest and most popular majors at UMass. So we never lack for students to teach or people who are excited about the things that we're working on. And in 2014, we were very fortunate to be able to move into this building that's already been mentioned, the Integrative Learning Center. It's in the middle of campus. It's a green building, a LEED certified building that houses the departments of communication, journalism, and linguistics, as well as a lot of state-of-the-art classroom spaces. It's a great location. You're convenient to the nation's top-ranked several years in a row campus dining, to the Student Union building, which has just been renovated, the library, and the beautiful campus pond. And so in addition to the sort of really nice, regular classroom facilities, we do have a lot of production facilities right in the building, which has been really convenient. So television studio, editing suites, screening rooms for film classes. So that's been a real advantage to have that all in one spot. And this slide shows the hub, which is our open shared space. In our department, you can see the library and the pond from all those wonderful windows. Sometimes students just hang out and work here, but we also have events. And we are doing that now. We're back to teaching in person in masks and are having some masked events, such as last week, we had some practice presentations from our graduate students for the upcoming National Communication Association conference. So we have a really great representation from our grad students at that national conference. And among those presentations are 3 top paper or top student paper award winners. So that's kind of an indication of the scholarship that our PhD students are doing. So in addition to telling you a bit about the department, we want you to learn about the broader university and what it has to offer. So UMass Amherst is the flagship campus of the University of Massachusetts system. It's the largest public university in New England, and it's part of what's called the 5 College Consortium. So here in what's called the Pioneer Valley in Western Massachusetts, not only do we have UMass, but we have within about a 15-minute drive or so 4 liberal arts colleges: Amherst College, Hampshire College, Mount Holyoke College, and Smith College, which are wonderful resources that you perhaps might connect with faculty who share research interests on those colleges who could potentially serve on your committee. They all have wonderful libraries, and we share library resources with those campuses. There are so many talks happening in the Valley, you could never possibly attend all the ones you want to. So it's a really vibrant intellectual community in this area. And then within UMass, there's, of course, the Department of Communication is wonderful, but there's a lot of really relevant units around campus that you might want to interact with. So among our faculty, some have affiliations and joint appointments with other units on campus, such as the School of Public Policy, the College of Information and Computational and Computer Science, and the Commonwealth Honors College. And in addition, folks have affiliations or get involved with other interdisciplinary research institutes or units, such as the Institute of Social Science Research, the Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies Program, the Asian and Asian American Studies Certificate Program, the UMass Initiative for Digital Public Infrastructure. There were so many, we couldn't get them all on the slide. There's also the Film Studies Program, Caribbean, Latin American, and Latino Studies. And some of our students do pursue a certificate in addition to their communication PhD degree. So if you have a kind of, if your research interest spans with another field or area, that is an additional credential that you can choose to pursue while you're here. Okay, so a little bit about our faculty. So you have a chance to meet some of us today. We have 26 full-time faculty. We're really proud to be one of the most international and diverse academic departments at UMass. And of course, that's something that we want to continue to focus on and develop. Our research and teaching areas include, but are not limited to, media technology and culture, critical cultural studies, film studies, performance studies, and language and social interaction. And a lot of faculty members don't necessarily see themselves as just within one of those categories. People do sometimes consider their work to span more than one subfield. And that's true also of our graduate students. I think across these areas of work, something that I think characterizes the ethos of our department is a desire to address issues of social inequality and use scholarship to work towards equity and social justice, whether that's through our empirical work, multimodal scholarship, so that could involve different types of research creation, creative activity, performance, community outreach, whether through our research or with our classrooms projects, and teaching and mentoring. So we are a research intensive faculty. We're at a Research One institution, but we also want to integrate these different aspects of what we do. So there's different ways for us to characterize the research activities of our faculty. One way we can do so is looking at some books that are coming out or have come out over the last couple of years. So these titles are all from really well-known presses and cover topics such as global television studies, soft power, especially as it relates to issues of digital communication technologies, quantitative research methods and how those can be used for social justice, the rise of mistrust in institutions and thinking about that, especially with the rise of digital institutions, and then the aforementioned book about Amazon, which will be coming out in a few months. So that's one way. Another way is thinking about externally funded research projects. So we're excited that we have a few grant projects underway that feature certainly our faculty, but also graduate students are involved in these projects. And I think a couple of those students might even be on this call today. So we have, for example, this first project on racially targeted misinformation against AAPI communities funded by the National Science Foundation, which is a federal funder of research here in the United States. And that team includes Jonathan Ong, Wayne Xu, Ethan Zuckerman, and PhD student Yana Kang. And some of these other topics, medical populism and social media influencers, how communities have been responding to countermeasures for COVID-19, and China's public diplomacy on Twitter. So a really exciting array of topics. So let me tell you a little bit about the program itself, which I'm sure you're interested in. We don't have a lot of required classes, but we do think it's really important for the incoming cohort to do some classes together that give them a shared foundation. So those include Introduction to Theories and Concepts of Human Communication, Qualitative Methods, and Quantitative Methods. Those are both introductory methods classes, so you do not need to have previous training in those methods. And in addition, we do a 1 credit pro seminar through that first year where you get to know the department and you start professional development in both teaching and research. Then we do require that students take at least 1, but maybe 2, depending on your previous training, surveys of areas within our field. So you can choose those from performance studies, theories of social interaction, introduction to film theory, and media theories. And then beyond that, there are some distributional requirements like how many credits in communication, how many outside credits, how many independent studies you can take. But we honestly do have quite a lot of flexibility, and you kind of plan your degree program with your advising committee. So here's an example of some classes that we've had in the last couple of years that you might be choosing from. So we're starting here with some classes in media studies, moving on to some advanced methods classes like content analysis, media historiography, performance ethnography, offerings in pedagogy, food is communication, communication in the public sphere, some cultural studies types offerings, screen studies. So really an array of choices for you to build your program of study from. And then the last thing I wanted to address before I pass it back to you, Jonathan, is a question we get a lot about how our PhD students fund their programs. So if you're admitted to the program, we do offer a funding package. So I'm excited to tell you that while up until recently, the package was for 4 years, starting in fall 22, we will be offering 5 years of funding. So what does funding mean? Funding means a tuition waiver, so you don't have to pay the tuition, and what's called an assistantship. So an assistantship is to work half-time, so 20 hours a week in our department, serving as either a teaching assistant or as a teacher of record. So eventually, once you've had some experience in training, to teach your own section of, say, public speaking. So that's 20 hours a week for the fall and spring semesters. And as long as you're in good standing, then you can, be offered, you can receive that 5 years of funding. And I can't be super specific about the sort of amount for the coming year because the university sets that, and we have to follow that, and that hasn't been published yet. But I can tell you that last year, that assistantship, the value of it was $23,050. Not for both fall and spring semesters, so that's kind of for the year, right? Not including the summer. And then beyond that, there's bits and pieces to do with health insurance and fees and things like that, but that at least gives you a ballpark sense. So yeah, thank you for listening, Jonathan.
Okay, so now about the admissions process itself. So I'm here directing you to this website. So this is a section of the grad studies page of our communication department, which lists all of these requirements. And at the very bottom gives you a little elaboration about each of these requirements. Right. So today I won't be repeating exactly what's on the website, but I'll just give you like some tips and pointers, what we might expect from these individual positions, especially the personal statement and the writing sample. So stuff beyond just what's written on the website, but you can definitely log on to UMass/communication/graduate/admissions for a listing and details of all of these things. So the online application will take you through a formal system, and that is with a graduate school. There is an application fee of $70 to $80 for you to submit your application. And then let me elaborate now on the personal statement. So here, I think it's really important for us to get to know you, right? To get to know your professional background, but also your identity and positionality as a researcher. So it's important to tell us what perspective that you're seeing the world from and what perspective you're seeing communication problems from. Right. So, of course, you're getting admitted into a PhD in communication. So where does communication fit into your own personal story, right? And to your own intention to develop as a researcher, as an academic, perhaps? For example, tell us a little bit about your passion for cinema or television, whether that informs your interest. Or is it about specific personal experiences as a media worker, as a writer, as a journalist? Is it issues of representation or misrepresentation that you are concerned with conceptually, empirically? Or perhaps it's more about the interest in emerging digital innovations and their capacities for voice, participation, organization. So also tell us which kinds of communication you're most interested in. Is it more interpersonal and social interaction, or is it more mediated forms? Right? So that will help assess for us like how you fit into our program. The personal statement is also your opportunity to tell us how a PhD program fits into your own short and long-term goals for yourself. So where do you want to be in the future, and how is a PhD important for you to achieve those goals? Of course, the personal statement, along with your own achievements, as you would have elaborated on your resume, would ideally tell us a little bit more about all the background steps that you have taken in preparing yourself for a PhD. So here is your opportunity to tell us about the research experiences that you have done. Have you conducted any surveys? Have you done any focus group interviews, whether for professional objectives or perhaps for academic purposes? Did you attend any academic conferences? Have you done any collaborative projects or more sole-authored kinds of expressions? And then also tell us about why you think the UMass communication program might be a good fit for you. So have you browsed our research profiles of our faculty, perhaps also of other grad students, and see how it might align with your own interests? have some of our work inspired your own thinking about some of the social problems that you want to address? So that's what we're expecting from the personal statement, right? And then for the resume, later on, I'll be dropping in a link here as well as to examples of other resumes. So the UMass Grad Study site has a repository of examples of resumes of what you might want to include there, especially as this is an academic-oriented resume, not so much a professional resume. Now, here we have listed a writing sample of no more than 25 pages. So what might you be able to submit here? So ideally, this is a research paper. It could be a published article. It could be a conference paper, a dissertation or honors project or undergraduate thesis. That is fine. You can also cobble together several essays that you might have written for popular press or for blogs that have a very analytical way of thinking and an expression around them. Of course, some of you here might be applying for a performance studies kind of orientation. And so we're also welcome to receive creative writing and creative expressions. So feel free to include that as well. For those of you who might be interested in a more comm and tech policy kind of orientation, then of course, feel free to share and send us policy papers that you might have authored. Sole authored pieces are preferred. And ideally, there would be some sole authored pieces, but if you think there's a co-authored piece that is really crucial to include, then why don't you cobble that together into one PDF and send that and upload that as your writing sample. So 3 letters of recommendation. And here, there's 3 letters of recommendation. We list in the website, again, what might be important information to include there. For me, let me just say that it might be good to mix it up. So have 2 academic referees, 1 professional referee. So these could be former mentors of yours, people who have helped you through your thesis, who have supervised your undergraduate thesis. It could also be a former employer or research collaborator as your referee. Okay, and here we also include the official transcripts, undergraduate GPA, and here there's a minimum of 2.7. And there are optional GRE scores, and we're actually not requiring that at all. So happy to elaborate during question time. But now I will like to turn it over to a current graduate student, JD Swerzensky, who's a PhD candidate in the program, to tell us about his own journey into the PhD program.
My journey. Wow. Yes. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. As Jonathan said, I'm JD, 5th year PhD candidate. I'm working on my dissertation now, looking at critical approaches to media pedagogy. So pulling critical pedagogy, media literacy, software studies together to kind of figure out how we connect critical theory with the practice of making video, audio, and multimodal text. I just say that to preface kind of my own journey and how I got to figuring all that out. So I came to UMass as I suppose more of an untraditional student, though I guess in our department, it doesn't feel that way. And by that, I mean, I did not go undergrad, master's, PhD. I spent 5 years working in public media, in public radio for a kind of college NPR-ish station. I did a Fulbright year in Bogota, Colombia, and kind of in between my master's. And, I found that experience both in the professional field and other non-academic fields has been really helpful for me. And I also say that my background here is very typical in our program. I think about our current cohort, the current first year cohort, folks who are coming from public policy, from K through 12 education, from the art world, and spent a long time in those fields and now bring that into the classroom. So that's definitely the energy we have in the classroom, which is something that I've really appreciated. And, I think one of the things I wanted to speak on to is the value I found in the program. And the word that came to me was malleability. It's not a program that's a quant program or an effects program or et cetera. It's a lot of different things. As Jonathan and Emily said, there's a ton of different faculty research directions, which can be discombobulating. But for me, for somebody who didn't come in with a clearly defined research agenda, it was nice. It was a sampler platter of all these possible directions I could go. The 611 class, the theory class, was mentioned, a first-year class. One of the great things about that is it's every professor will come in week by week and present on their research. You'll read their articles, and then there they are. You can talk about, all right, this is what I do. This is how I do it. These are the conferences I go to. These are the journals I publish for. So if you're kind of figuring out, all right, how I'm going to become an academic, you've got that modeled, which is a really, really nice thing. I mentioned pedagogy. That's a big thing for me. I've had a lot of flexibility in terms of the classes I've taught. I've been able to do production, film studies courses, some research writing, which, you know, I'm on the market now, and I'm talking that up a lot, that I have a wide amount of teaching experience just from, you know, asking, just for, you know, which I think a lot of folks in grad programs, certainly the one, my master's program, I did not have that kind of flexibility. And, you know, finally, I think this thing of, you know, developing, it's also a smaller cohort, you know, there's not a ton of us. And so I take advantage of that by just popping in, especially now that COVID, you know, has allowed us to get back into the offices. I pop in and speak with people, get advice on conferences, on, you know, places to publish, you know, feedback on articles. There's availability there, which has been something that I've really taken advantage of. And it's been super helpful because I did not come in, as I said, a polished gem by any means. It took me a long time to figure out, you know, what my research voice was and my direction was. And lastly, I'll just speak to, you know, the position statement. I think Jonathan laid that out in pretty great detail. I don't have some sage advice for that. I'm happy I got in. Apparently I said some good things. But I will say that for me, you know, just the idea of, you know, not presenting yourself as a finished product, but really making the case for like where this program is going to take you. And I think that's a benefit of this program. It's a strength of this program, that there are a lot of opportunities should you take them to kind of to grow, to develop. So making the case, right, that, you know, you are not a fully formed product, but, you know, you're ready to be shaped into one. I think that might be a very strong approach as you're kind of conceiving of your personal statement. Okay, I think that's all I got, Jonathan, and we can cover other things in questions. Yep.
For sure. Thank you so much, JD, for sharing. And now we are so proud and honored and thrilled to have Dr. Si-Wan Yin, who's now Assistant Professor of Migration and Communication at Simon Fraser University School of Communication. And she graduated from our program not too long ago, 2019, also with a grad certificate in Advanced Feminist Studies. So Si-Wan, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jonathan, for the kind introduction, for inviting me to share about my experience. So following JD, I will just talk about some of the most important and valuable experience I have from a perspective of a recent graduate PhD student. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about the training and the study here. As Emily has addressed, at UMass Communication, we offer this, we treat communication as an interdisciplinary field of study with covering a wide range of critical scholarship. And in my case, I focus on media and culture studies, critical technology studies, political economy, feminist studies. So here you can really explore your interest in critical scholarship related to media and communication, interpersonal, intercultural communication. So this is really a strength of our program, I think, which is also a little bit exceptional among the mainstream communication studies in the States or even in the larger area of North America. And also, as Emily said, we have, beyond communication, we have this larger intellectual community at UMass with 5 college system, and also with all the research institutions. Many of my peers, including myself, have done graduate certificate in feminist studies, film studies, Latino studies. And I know, including myself, many of our peers have taken classes from other departments in sociology, political science, history, women, gender studies. So it's really a rich intellectual source that you can really explore while you are here. And another thing I want to talk a little bit about is the training. Okay, another thing is about the coursework. So basically, usually people take 2 years or even 2.5 years to finish their coursework. And each semester, we take 2 to 3, usually it's about 3 courses, which is really intense, but highly rewarding. So I can tell you now, as a researcher and teacher myself, I still benefit greatly from the courses I have taken at UMass. So it really laid out this foundational knowledge-based work for myself, and which is very beneficial for further teaching and research. So about the training and opportunities, as Emily and JD has said, almost all the graduate students, especially PhD students, will have the opportunity to lead their standalone courses as the instructor. So this is a very, very invaluable experience of both training and also gaining experience of teaching. So we have offered a wide range of undergrad classes available to PhD graduates to instruct, to also they have the chance to develop their own syllabus, which is really great. And what else? Another thing about your more related to the research is that the program is very supportive for students who want to do ethnography, which again is very exceptional among all the PhD programs I know across North America. So you will have this luxury support and time and even funding from both the department and the university to do field work. I know people who have done field work from 6 months to even 2 years. So this is really really great opportunity and valuable experience to strengthen your research and further explore your academic life. Last thing is about publication. Sorry, I'm very strategic about navigating the academic market, but speaking from a recent graduate, publication is very important. And at UMass, another strength here is that almost all the graduate students will graduate, PhD students will graduate with 1 to 2 journal articles. Most of them are single author in the top international ranked communication or other interdisciplinary journals. Again, this is really showing how our training and our academic training and study are really speaking to each other, are really strengthening the very expertise and the very building up the expertise and the skills students will need to really make them a successful candidate in the job market, which is highly competitive. So as JD has said, again, I think the most important thing for you, even before you start to think about whether you want to apply or whether you want to apply for our program at UMass or other programs in the States or other areas, the most important thing for me is that you need to really ask yourself whether you are truly passionate about knowledge production. Are you really prepared for entering the academic world with the passion for pursuing knowledge, pursuing social justice oriented knowledge, or any kind of knowledge that you are passionate about? And next thing is to ask yourself, what kind of areas of studies you are really interested and passionate to explore. And then with that all kinds of things in mind, then you can explore the website of our faculty's profile, and then probably reach out to several faculty members as your potential advisors or supervisors. So that's a little bit tips about your application. I think again, the most important thing is to ask yourself, what's the most passionate areas of study or the topic that you find related to media, communication, culture, politics, etc. That's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Siwan. We're also very thrilled to hear that from you and to hear the support that you have gotten, especially around fieldwork, getting to teach your own classes. I know that a lot of our grad studies classes, like the PhD classes, kind of help students prepare journal article ready final paper. So that's like one of the consistent kind of aims of those PhD classes that you will be taking. So thank you so much for that. And now it's time for questions. So feel free to drop questions in the chat box. Feel free to also use the raise hand function here on Zoom, and I will try to pair your question with faculty who are on this call, and you can see a few of them have joined us. There's also several grad students who are on this call, and I will just stop recording so that we can have a more private conversation. So thank you so much, everybody.